Can you hear me though?
Do you know what you're gonna order yet?
Of course I do. I got some sushi burritos from Poke Burry.
You said poke burritos?
Poke Burry, I got sushi
Oh,
burritos.
burgers.
Poke Burry, got sushi burritos. It was like marinated tofu and like this ginger sauce and some beets and carrots and greens and
That sounds good.
it's fire.
Oh, I meant to tell you, my friend, the one who opened the door, I let them taste one of the ham pies you made, and they was like, oh, "I need to put an order in." I was like, "I don't even know she be doing orders, but I can ask."
I'm not, but I used to vend when I lived in Miami. I used to make food and sell it.
That's so cool.
It was terrible. It's so exhausting.
Uh, it's still cool to have the experience, though.
Yes, I can say I've done it. So I know that my food can make me some money. So that's nice to know.
Right, just in case, you know.
Hmm.
So basically, tell her she never gonna ever have them in her life
Well,
because
I might see her again.
yeah, maybe. You okay?
Yes, I was burping and I didn't think it was appropriate for y'all to hear that.
That's real. But yeah, if you want to start around like 6:15, I thought that's when folks will be in. It's still 5:57, so I don't know. Whatever you want to do, I'm just here to support. Just let me know.
Yes, we'll see what things look like at '05. But also considering being timely, maybe just introducing the conversation, having some loose convo around the topic itself before we dive in for real, for real.
That's
Keep
real.
folks engaged. Hello, hello, everyone. I just wanted to let everyone know we're going to get started around 6:05. So go do what you got to do to get ready and 5 minutes. Hello, everyone. So, we're about to get cracking. If you could you turn your cameras on? I'd like to see your beautiful faces. Hello, hello. Oh, all these beautiful people. Hello. Oh, hello. So, I want to introduce myself. You look nice and comfy, Kiera. My name is Asha. I am the new community organizer with Spark Reproductive Justice Now, and I will be facilitating tonight's base member meeting. Yay! Um, First thing first, I would like to do an icebreaker with everyone. Kay, I know you're on the call. Did you find an icebreaker question that you'd like to choose for everybody?
Yes, I did. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
1 second. The icebreaker question would be, with it starting to get chilly, what's your favorite way to get in some exercise?
Perfect. Let me write that into the chat as well.
I literally got a little flustered, y'all. I'm sorry. I was explaining to my niece about gender. But yeah, that's the question.
Okay, perfect. I'll start. I'd like everyone to, if they can, turn their mic on and say their name and introduce themselves. So we're gonna popcorn around and I'll model how that'll go. So, hi everyone, I'm Asha. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My favorite way to get some exercise while it's chilly is to go on a hike. I like to go on a nice hike. I'm going to popcorn it over to Comfy Kiera over there.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Kiera. I use all pronouns. My favorite way to exercise in not just getting chilly is just to continue the routine I've had for a while. I get up first thing in the morning and go to Planet Fitness and do warm up exercises to, I don't know, get the body heat going. I hate the wintertime. I hate anytime it starts to get chilly. I just have to drag myself out of bed to exercise. So if I don't do it first thing in the morning, it's not gonna happen. So yeah.
And then choose somebody else on the call.
Oh yeah, okay. I want to popcorn it over to NECA.
Hey y'all, my name is NECA. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the If, When, How Reproductive Justice Fellow with Spark. I'm going to be honest, I do not exercise. I am as sedentary as possible. I like, take my dogs on a jaunt every now and then, and we get lots of playtime inside. But yeah, I like to sit in chairs and lay in bed for most of my time. I will popcorn it to Alex.
Hi everyone, my name's Alex. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And one of my favorite ways to get outside and get some exercise when it's getting a little cooler out is definitely to hop on my bike, go for a long bike ride. I live in New York City, so if I can get to one of the beaches, awesome. I forgot to popcorn. I'll send it over to Freya. Hopefully I said your name correctly.
Yes, you did, yes. Name is Freya, she, her, and I put it in the chat, my favorite way to get exercise is to go for a nice brisk walk around in the neighborhood. And I will popcorn it over to Michelle.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I love getting exercise when it's chillier all the time, just by putting some loud music and dancing at home and getting it all out like no one's watching. And I'll popcorn it to, is it Sisha or Sesha?
Seisha. Thank you. My name is Seisha. My pronouns are she, her, queen. And my favorite form of exercise, probably anytime, is yoga. Although now that it's getting chillier, I would like to fit in more hikes and bike rides before it gets too cold. And I will popcorn it to Marlo.
Oh, you said it right. Hello, my name is Marlo, and my pronouns are she, her, and Marlo. I'm walking outside now, working out. I enjoy doing the walks only. As far as working out, and I guess I'm a part of the fellowship with Spark. That's running until December, and I believe that's it. Oh, sorry, I have gray hair for work earlier, so don't mind me.
And
popcorn too. Let me look at the list. Sorry. Who hasn't gone? I'm not sure if it's Alyssa or Eliza. You just never know.
It's Alyssa.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Alyssa. My pronouns are she and her. My favorite way to get in shape now that it's or get some exercise now that it's chilly, I have an indoor bicycle that I don't use nearly as often as I should, but I try to use it almost every day. And was that it? Was that all? I know I've got to popcorn it over to somebody.
Yep, that's it.
Let's see. Has Mirren gone?
No. Hi, my name is Miren. My pronouns are she, they, and Nina. And I don't like to work outside when it's cold. I don't like the cold, so I just stick to my workout routine inside. And I'll pass it over to Erin.
Hi, thank y'all for being here. My name is Erin Gloucester. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My Wi-Fi is really shitty also. If I'm going in and out, I'm sorry. I'm the communications manager at Spark, and I'm happy to see so many people on the call. For exercise, while it's getting cooler, I love a hike. So Asha, sorry, I got a call. I think I'm still here. So Asha, I'm with you on that, the hike. And then I also enjoy going to the gym in the morning and getting my body moving, like Eliwa. So I will popcorn it to Ayola.
You're on mute, honey.
Okay, cool. So my name's Ayola. My pronouns are she, her, and I like to exercise by going to the gym. I have a membership, but I don't use it as much as I should, as much as it costs. But yeah, that's me. So has everyone gone? Did Kay go? Can a popcorn to Kay?
I didn't go. Hey everyone, my name is Kay. My pronouns are she, they, and I don't know. I just go for a little walk. Not really. I keep saying I'm gonna do it, but I haven't done it yet. But eventually, right? Has anyone else not gone yet? Right, period. Ayola.
I think that's everyone. Oh, I didn't even know. Hey, Agbo.
So sorry I'm late, y'all. I was struggling hella badly over here. But I think I caught what the check-in question was. But hey, y'all, my name is Agbo. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm logged in as Spark for some reason, didn't realize. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Director with Spark. And what I do for exercise, though I haven't been in a long while, I really like kickboxing for exercise, as well as yoga. And then sometimes if the weather's nice, I'll go for a hike.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for sharing. Now we're gonna get into some things. A topic that has been coming up has been about emergency contraception. And so I'm going to talk about a couple things related to emergency contraception. And hold on 1 minute. All right, so in regards to emergency contraception, I'm not sure how familiar everybody is about Plan B and Plan B. How familiar is everyone with Plan B? You can just unmute yourselves or write in the chat. What do you know about it? Mm-hmm.
I can add what I know about it. So basically that you can, if you have a pregnancy scare, you can take this within, I think it's like 72 hours. It interrupts the sperm and the egg, I think, from like joining. I should know way more about it, but essentially it's like a backup plan for if like you're you didn't use some other form of contraception or it failed or I think it's most effective when you use it like as quickly as possible, but it can be effective for up to 72 hours after.
Miriam?
I can speak on experience. I've taken it and I read on it before I took it, and supposedly your first period after, it's supposed to be really bad cramps, and I can attest to that. It was horrible, but then it caused me to miss my next 2 periods, which made me obviously panic, but yeah.
Is anyone else familiar on other cons of Plan B?
I've taken it before, and I know that it can cause like really bad nausea, which is what happened to me. And it even heightened my fear that maybe something else was going on, like maybe I was pregnant at the time or something. And then also I think like, well, I've heard this. I don't know how true it is, and I haven't done too much research, but I know that if you're over like 150 pounds, it doesn't work. Which at the time I was over 150 anyway, so LOL, like I shouldn't have even taken it. But for some reason, I guess like the way your body digests like the hormones, it just doesn't have the same effect if you are over 150 pounds.
Perfect. So that's actually one of the answers I was looking for. So Plan B has a weight limit, and it is 175. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Ella. and that's the brand name, but I believe it's called Olapristol, which is an alternative. And so I'm going to read a few things about it. And it's more suggested to use as emergency contraceptive than Plan B, suggested by an OBGYN. So the scientific thing that it is a selective progesterone receptor modulator, AKA emergency contraception. So it prevents pregnancy up to 5 days after sex, and it can lower your chances of getting pregnant by 85% if you take it within 5 days after having unprotected sex. But of course, the sooner you take it, the better. And Ella is the most effective type of morning after pill that you can get. It works better than other morning after pills, and I was wrong about the weight limit. It is 155. And so if you weigh over 155, you don't have to worry about Ella, unless you may weigh 195 or more. So Ella still has a weight limit, but it is higher than Plan B. It may not work as well, but it's still not saying that it doesn't work. It's just saying that it may not work as well. And it is not recommended to do a double dose for double protection. So if you are or happen to be over the weight limit, it doesn't mean to take 2 doses of Ella. Just take the one and hope that it works. If after taking Ella and you wind up needing emergency contraception again, use Ella again, and not Plan B or another type of levonorgestrel morning after pills. So you should wait about 6 days post Ella use to start hormonal contraception. And then if you are breast or chest feeding, they highly advise for you to pump and dump for 36 hours after Ella usage. So other emergency contraceptives, you can still nurse if you take it, but they do typically cause a dip in supply. So I know that our base members kind of span the US. And so one option to get Ella, if ever needed, is on this website. It is a little higher price than Plan B. It's about $90, but it ships overnight. You can also get a prescription from your OB or midwife, your OB, GYN or midwife, or local Planned Parenthood or family planning clinic. And it may be free if you have Medicaid or other health insurance, but of course, a lot of places tend to work with folks and do some sort of payment plan to make it a little bit more affordable. Alternatively, there is a copper coil option, also known as Paragard, and it is an IUD. So you need to get a whole a meeting, consultation with your OBGYN or midwife to get the IUD inserted, but it can be used as emergency contraceptive, and it is 99.9% effective up to 5 days after unprotected sex. And it can be removed, but you'll have a sore cervix, so you might want to keep it in. They also say that the side effects to the copper coil are heavy bleeding, and they tend to fade after about 3 months of it being in your body. So yeah, that's Ella, and also copper coil. Does anyone have any questions? Beautiful. So we're going to move on to a couple other things. We have, and I would like Kay to support me on this, but we have a campaign in the works, especially, or more specifically in the state of Georgia, the Power in the Name campaign, where we support trans and folks living outside of the binary in the process of changing their name and gender markers, making it a lot easier in the state of Georgia. And we are thinking about some ways to promote this campaign. And one idea that we thought of was ID cards. And so it'd be like mock Georgia IDs. And so what we were interested in was knowing if anyone was possibly interested in participating, getting their picture taken or submitting a photo to be used in these advertisements for the campaign. Sweet. Perfect. Anyone?
I'm sorry, can you kind of explain the campaign one more time?
Yes. Kay.
Yes. So Power to Name, like the intent of it is to basically like to allow like trans folks and folks who exist outside the binary to have like easier access to getting their name changed. And the campaign is literally trying to uplift that so that like in the state of Georgia, folks can have like easier access to getting their name changed and gender marker changed. We're trying to like have different like programming and events to support folks in that process of getting their name changed. And then you were talking about the ID campaign or whatever. I guess, well, the ID, I guess, signage that we were thinking about doing. Still in the talks of it, but we just wanted to know if folks are interested in, you know, what Asha just said, but if folks are interested in like having their picture be a part of like the art or whatever around the campaign, which is basically just to uplift like those stories and experiences. If that does that help or make sense? Question mark.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you would be looking for folks who identify as trans to be part of the campaign?
Ideally.
Yeah.
Trans and non-binary folks.
Okay, this is Ayola. I just figured you wanted like pictures. So I do not identify as trans or non-binary. So I guess I'll rescind my interest.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say I feel like for the camp. Well, how about we ask what folks think about it? Like, what do you think? What do you all think about like censoring? Like, should it just be specifically trans folks? Asha, what do you think? Or
well, I could say like, I mean, personally, I would benefit from the campaign because I would like to change my name. Like my name, Ayola Omalar Kaplan, is not my legal name, but the process of changing my name is difficult.
Okay. See, I feel like it could be the opportunity to like center trans folks and folks who exist outside the binary, but also recognizing that folks who may identify like as cis or not non-binary could also still support and be a part of it. Yeah.
I agree. Any other feedback?
Yeah, I was gonna say, people who identify as cis, for the most part, since they would probably still be interested in getting their names changed, but it would be for a completely different reason. I feel like, most of the cis people who I met who changed their name was more so just like more so identifying with, African ancestry and wanting to separate themselves from their European names and things like that. So I guess just like holding that, but then also just making sure that they center trans and non-binary people.
That's my reason.
Hey, B, welcome. 20, welcome. Kay, could you repeat what you said one more time?
Everything?
About the campaign, and then we'll ask folks who are interested in participating in the promotion. I feel like that's what this is, the promotion, the ID promotion. And so it would be like your picture, name, pronouns, on the ID, like a sample ID of what it could look like if this all gets pushed through.
Okay, so basically Power in the Name campaign is to center specifically trans folks and folks who exist outside the binary, as far as like thinking about like the resource for hello. So centering those folks as like, I guess, for the resource of getting their name changed and their gender marker changed. So the campaign is to uplift those stories and experiences so that folks can have like easier access to getting their name changed or their gender marker updated. Because currently in the state of Georgia, it's a lot more difficult to get your name changed and gender marker changed as a trans person or a person who's like trying to be affirmed in their gender. Like, for example, I'm from New Jersey. So for me, getting my gender marker changed as a trans person was a lot easier. I just filled out an application online and just like submitted it. And then my gender marker was changed. But being here, it's a lot more difficult to kind of go through that process because you need, proof that you underwent like some specific surgery in order to get your gender marker updated, for example. So yeah, the process is a lot more difficult. So the campaign itself serves as like conversation, but also like upliftment of those experiences in hopes so that we can like make it more easier for folks, making that process more easier. Are folks following me? I know I said a lot. I don't know. Okay, cute. Yes, we can. Can we share this with our networks even outside of Georgia? Yeah. But I think specifically though, the campaign is centered to like show it for folks in Georgia. But if folks want to plug in or want to support or want to be a part of the work, then they definitely can be plugged in. And maybe we can be like creative in a specific way, Asha, about the like the handouts or whatever with the name. So like it could be like, I don't know, maybe it could even be like a little blurb about something or about this person or about why it's important for them to have like this process easier. So it could be that, or it can just be like, you know what I mean? Just information about the name change, Power in Name campaign overall on the back. And like the ID could be like the artwork. It doesn't have to necessarily be first and last name. It could be like, first name, gender. I mean, not gender, first name, pronouns. Why this campaign could be beneficial for people.
I like. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to ask one more time, because I just want to make sure I get a list of folks who are interested in participating. Perfect. of folks who are interested in participating in the campaign. Yay! Perfect. Thank you. All right. So now I had mentioned Plan B earlier today, and I am working on an action here in Georgia to distribute some Plan B out to folks. And part of the campaign, part of the action, besides just passing it out to people, I want to get folks more involved and possibly include like a community or collaborative art piece. And when I think about fertility, I think about flowers. And so, I don't know, it connects for me, it connects. And so one thing I've been thinking about is maybe some sort of field or vase or something where you can like draw a flower or already have flowers printed out and you can color it, but include your story as to why reproductive autonomy is important to you, or how you have benefited from being able to make certain decisions about your reproductive health, and or how some of these laws that are getting put in place are putting your health in danger. And what I'm looking for is what folks think about that idea of something to do with flowers. If y'all have better ideas, because I'm not exactly an artist, so sometimes my thoughts for art are limited. And then also, what's a way for folks to get involved in possibly a digital capacity, for folks that aren't in Georgia? So I'll pause for y'all. What about the idea do you like?
I'm just gonna come off mute. Actually, when you were talking about flowers, and really describing like what your reproductive autonomy means to you, I kind of like envision like different words on each petal about this that kind of describes that feeling to you. So maybe it doesn't have to be a narrative, but it can be incorporated right into the art.
I like that. I like that. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Michelle.
Hello.
Hi, I just
Wait.
as an artist, I think I like the idea of art of.
I'm so sorry.
Can
You
you
were
hear?
breaking up a lot. Yes, thank you. And other folks, something other than flowers, or how folks can be involved in a digital capacity if folks can't be here and present in Atlanta. What would a collaborative art piece look like for folks outside of Atlanta? I'm loving these ideas. Thank you. I'm typing. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're creative. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. See, this is what happens when we put all of our brains together. Mm-hmm. I like. Okay, perfect. That's cute. That's really cute. Bam. Perfect. If y'all have any more ideas, could you please email them to me? I would super appreciate that. And I think that would also give you an opportunity to super elaborate on what that could look like. Wow. Thank you very much, because I was really trying to figure out how could all these folks be involved all over the US on a collaborative art piece. My email is asha@sparkrj.org. Bam. No problem. Okay. And then lastly, what I have to say before we take a little break is we have a CPC review-a-thon this Thursday from 6 to 8. And could anyone tell me what a crisis pregnancy center is?
It's where they lie to women.
Yes. So crisis pregnancy centers are very, what's the word I'm using? They disguise themselves for folks who are pregnant and in need, often for abortion services. And they disguise themselves, that's the word I was looking for, they disguise themselves as these clinics where you can receive these services, where in fact, a lot of them don't or aren't able to offer any medical advice or support for anyone. They will often send you home with a Bible verse and feelings of shame and making you feel like there's no other option in how to navigate this pregnancy. And they often target poor Black and brown folks with the idea of a free pregnancy test. And so what this CPC, that's how we abbreviate it. Exactly. This CPC review-a-thon is going to be on Thursday from 6 to 8. I put the link in the chat for you to be able to register. You'll get to learn about what CPCs are, and then we have an action for you to do after you learn a little bit more in depth about them. And you get the opportunity to write Google reviews about these locations, about how they are not abortion clinics and how a lot of them are misleading and using deceptive advertising for folks. I was reading reviews the other day, and one I found was that they had went for an abortion, and it is equal parts impactful and petty, but they went for abortion services and they got talked out of it and sent home with a Bible verse. So, if that's not what you're looking for, then it's an issue. And it's okay that if you're not able to make it, please spread the word. We have the link also in our Instagram, our social media, and so in our link tree. So if you need to send it to your friends, exactly, send it to your friends, or bam, I want to share a link tree as well. No, they don't provide free medical care. The only thing that what they do provide is probably diapers, bottles, clothes, but not medical care. And so this Thursday will be a super dope opportunity for folks to get involved. And again, it's okay. We'll have other opportunities for you to get involved. Just keep an eye out. And we are going to take a little break. I want y'all to click the link, order some food for tonight. If you haven't yet, get your snack on. And we will come back around 7:05 for our skill share with Kai Tyson about queer and trans family planning. Yay! So if y'all have any questions, put them in the chat, but I will see you soon. Welcome back, y'all. I told y'all 7:05. I'm pretty punctual. Hello, Kai. Hello.
Hello. Hello. How are you?
Good, good. Do you have the permissions just yet?
I haven't tried. Let's see. Yeah, looks like I can.
Perfect.
Let me see if it'll let me share.
There we go.
Boom.
Awesome sauce.
Ready.
Do you want cameras on or off from everyone?
It doesn't matter. It's up to
All right.
y'all.
No, it's up to you.
Well, I'm relinquishing control of that, but thank you.
No problem. All right.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. If you are back, can you put a reaction on your screen? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Awesome. So welcome, Kai. They're going to be our community's professional skill sharer, and we are going to learn about queer and trans family planning. So take it away.
Yay. Hi, y'all. My name is Kai. My pronouns are they, them. I am so excited to be here. Yeah, I'm really excited. Usually this is actually my first time doing this particular presentation. So let me know how you like it. Usually I'm talking to like cishet people about queer people. So it's really great to talk to us about us. So I'm really excited. So there's a lot of information in here and I'm gonna try to get through it, the information heavy part, as fast as I can so that we can get to the more interactive part. So usually I'm down for questions whenever, but I want to get through the information heavy part, and then the second half will be more questions and discussions and stuff. But I just wanted to take some time to introduce myself. That's my headshot. I'm out here looking crude. But I am a birth worker. I am an educator. I'm a healer. And I am a queer, non-binary Black person from the South who is in my 30s, my early 30s. And, you know, I realized a couple of years ago that a lot of my friends and a lot of people my age were like, we were starting to think about having kids, but like, I don't think a lot of us even knew like where to start with this information. And so like, I find a lot of queer and trans folks who are interested in learning about how to have kids, like way more than the people who are like, yes, we're ready to get pregnant, or we're ready to, you know, do whatever we need to do to get a kid. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation with y'all. And I hope that if the content resonates with y'all, that it'll help some other queer and trans folks who are thinking about having kids and building their families. So Kaluntu Reproductive Justice Center is my organization that I founded in 2018. So I am a doula, and I actually call myself a sacred transition guide. I don't really like the word doula because it has like slavery connotations anyways. I specialize in working with Black LGBTQ families, in addition to families with a variety of intersections that aren't the typical, quote unquote. So families who don't look like a, you know, mom and dad nuclear family, people with multiple co-parents, or with some other kind of queer family configuration, or families who are going through divorce and they just happen to have a pregnancy happening at the same time, or like folks who are pregnant and HIV positive, folks who are pregnant and are recovering from substance use disorder, you know, on and on and on, all the different intersections. And so I really pride myself on
not only helping families go through these transitions, but also getting other birth workers and other healthcare providers and other folks who work around birth to think about how they can queer birth, how they can queer family formation, how they can get out of this old-fashioned, not even old-fashioned, this manufactured white capitalist, all of that, idea of family that we have come to think is normal, quote unquote. But we know for a lot of us, a lot of Black and brown folks, ancestrally and traditionally, that's not normal for us. And they don't serve us. So, but we'll get into all that in a little bit. I want to do a blanket content warning before I get into it. We are going to be talking about reproductive organs. We are going to be mentioning gender dysphoria. We're talking about finances because some of the stuff is not cheap. And just general childhood stuff. I don't want to label it as trauma, but just like feelings and thoughts and reflections on how your childhood went. Those types of things will be coming up. So just a blanket content warning, please take care of yourselves if and when you need to. And yeah, no expectation to have your camera on or anything. So do what you got to do to take care of yourself. Okay, I love to do a quick community agreements acknowledgement. So I love to offer to the group the oops, ouch. Which is if someone says something that is harmful or is maybe, intentionally or not, is harmful to someone else, the person who is harmed can say, ouch. And the person who said the harmful thing or caused harm in whatever way can say, oops. And that's a way to acknowledge the harm that was caused without completely derailing the entire conversation. And we can always come back around afterward, or to the side. They can go to the side with those two particular people and make sure that folks feel okay, but just a way to acknowledge it without derailing the conversation. The Vegas rule: what happens in this space stays in this space. What happens here stays here, but what's learned here can leave here. So share the lesson, not the story. And I want folks to embrace vulnerability, because these are some vulnerable topics, even if we don't realize it at first glance. So I hope that everyone can embrace vulnerability during this conversation. And then I wanted to open up the space. I know that this is a base member meeting, so I'm sure y'all already have some agreements that already exist in the space. So I would love to, if anyone wants to lift those up.
We didn't, but
No
if
judgment.
anyone has any that they would like to contribute, please do.
Oops, that was my next question. What other agreements could be helpful in this space? So it's all good. And y'all can just drop it in the chat. I'm going to keep it moving, but think about it, drop it in the chat. Okay, learning outcomes, because I'm a nerd and I'm an educator. So this is the way that I want to make sure that y'all are learning. And I want to make sure that y'all are able to take something away from this. So as a result of this, I want y'all to be able to question your individual beliefs about parenting and parents' roles. Connect the act of parenting to movement, healing, and generational work. And then also assemble a rough draft of their future children's village. So we're gonna try to do all of that in like 45 minutes. We'll see how much we get through. So quick overview of what we'll be doing. I'll introduce the topic. We'll do some quick and dirty fertility, some questions to consider. We have the who's in your village activity, and then a reflection, some reflection/journal questions, and a bit of a discussion before we wrap up. Okay, so drop in the chat what you are excited to learn about today. What are you excited to learn about? What are you excited to take away from this time that we have together? Options available for queer family planning. Yeah, for sure. What else are y'all excited to learn about? Same. I mean, that's a pretty concise, definition of what we'll be talking about for sure. What the process of family planning entails and looks like. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so keep dropping that in the chat, but I also want folks to, come on, raise your hand or do a reaction if you are interested in expanding your family. Okay, I see some hands. Okay. Okay, raise your hand or react if you might possibly maybe be interested in expanding your family one day. That's me. I'm me. I'm that person. I'm like, maybe, we'll see. For sure. Raise your hand if you're like, nah, not my ministry. Children are not it. I am auntie, uncle, aunt, clee. There's not really a good gender neutral auntie, uncle word, but like, yeah, I see some hands. Heard. Yeah, and that's real. Like, no shame, no judgment, nothing, because I am all of them depending on the day. Well, raise your hand if you already have kids or if you're already in the process of family planning. I didn't say that, so I see a hand. Okay, Rich Auntie, I see you. Yeah, so some folks are already in that process, so I wanna lift up those folks as well. Raise your hand or react if you have no idea how to expand your family. Okay, yeah, it's not something that is talked about very often amongst queer folks. I kind of feel like in a lot of queer spaces, there's this like notion that, like we're not, at least when I was like maybe pre-pandemic, I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been in my 30s outside of a pandemic. So I don't know what 30 somethings are like, but the 20 somethings was like, we kids who know, like the queer spaces were not necessarily kid friendly. The family spaces are a lot of times not necessarily queer friendly either, which is where I feel like we're kind of stuck in this middle. And so, yeah, one of the things that I want Kuluntu to do is to stand in the gap so that we can have the families that we desire, because we deserve. So of course I have to show cute pictures because why does it keep doing that? I don't know, it has a weird delay thing, but we have always existed. We exist. Like, we are beautiful in our existence. I love all of these images because it just reminds me that like, we are doing the things, even if there are, whoever is saying whatever they want to say or whatever barriers are put in our place, like we are still existing and we are still having the families that we want to have. And yeah, we all deserve. All right, so quick and dirty fertility for the queer and trans kids who are kind of adults now and want to maybe have a baby one day. Like I said, I am that person. So this is the part that I want to get through kind of fast because there's a lot of information. So first things first, if you are on hormones, thinking about being on hormones, have been on hormones in the past, anything along those lines, fertility preservation is possible. In the past, they weren't really sure and they just assumed that fertility preservation wasn't possible and like having any kind of fertility wouldn't be possible if you're on hormones. But we know that that's not true, obviously, because we just seen them pictures and they were super cute. So if you are not on hormones, but you wish to start, talk to your provider about fertility preservation before you start hormones. That's the best way to go about it as far as having a higher chance of success of actually being able to use the sperm or eggs to get pregnant. If you are on hormones, then you will most likely have to stop taking your hormones for about 3 months if you want to preserve your fertility. So for example, if you're on hormones and you want to preserve your sperm, you would have to stop taking hormones for around 3 months before you would then get your sperm tested to see if you'll be able to impregnate. Basically, if your sperm will be able to impregnate an egg. If you are, come on, okay, there you go. If you are on T and you wish to carry a pregnancy, then you have to stop using T in order to conceive and throughout the pregnancy. Chest feeding, I'm not as sure about, but we're talking about trying to conceive. So I'll kind of stay on this side of it, but those are things to consider if you are on testosterone. So short-term, less than a year T use has not been found to negatively affect fertility. However, they haven't really done a lot of studies on long-term use, and they haven't done any studies on off-label use that I've been able to find. So this is assuming that, that you're using testosterone according to a prescription, using it properly and all those things. And I know that that's not always folks' reality presently or in the past. So some questions to think about if you are on hormones or you are thinking about taking hormones and you are also thinking about fertility preservation and becoming a parent. How will your fertility plans intersect with your gender identity, potential dysphoria, transition plans, etc.? Not saying that it will, have a positive or a negative effect, but just thinking about how those things will intersect in your life. And whether or not that's something that you're okay with and something that you're willing to do. And then what if you're on the fence about having kids? So a narrative that I've read pretty commonly a few times is maybe a trans man, for example, started taking T when he was 19 and now he's 32 and he wants to have kids. When he was 19, he wasn't thinking about kids. He had no, that wasn't on his radar, but now he's 32 and he's been on T for, over 10 years. And so I think for folks being on the fence, I wanted to bring that up because if you want to possibly have kids one day, that's something you can consider. You can preserve your fertility today, and in 10 years, life could be very different. You never know how you might feel about having kids. So if you're on the fence about having kids, it's something to think about, that fertility preservation is an opportunity and an option for you. All right, so fertility preservation for everyone. In general, if you are planning on preserving your eggs or your sperm, some of the things that you want to do in order to be in the best health that you can be. Check your hormone levels. You can go to your provider, your endocrinologist, your general practitioner, and they should be able to help you check your hormone levels. And that will, and there are certain numbers that it's best to hit in order to predict a higher chance of successful fertility, basically. And I don't know all those numbers off the top of my head, but you go to your provider, you get an idea of your hormone levels, and that'll give you an idea of what types of things you might need to change in order to get your numbers to those certain levels. Regular exercise is always good for everybody, even if it's a walk around your neighborhood, if it's dancing for 20 minutes in the morning, whatever it is, yoga, weight training, whatever feels good for you, do that thing. Whatever brings you joy when you're moving your body, sex, whatever it is, do it. It's good for you. I don't know why it keeps doing this. Okay, oh, there we go. Okay, so get enough sleep, reduce stress levels, as that's what they always say. We're in a whole pandemic, but yeah, reduce your stress levels as much as you can, and eat a diet rich in B vitamins, especially folate, which is if you ever hear folic acid, that's the synthetic version of folate. So you could take supplements, but in general, our bodies absorb nutrients better from food than from supplements. So supplements aren't bad, but food is always better. So vitamin C, healthy fats, unsaturated fats, avocados, nuts, and then lots of omega-3s as well. And then if you have a uterus / ova, the fertility awareness method is a way to track and regulate your cycle in advance of having to, or worrying about if you're getting pregnant or if you're donating eggs or whatever the case is. So the fertility awareness method is you're basically tracking your vaginal discharge and your cervical, I think it's the cervical placement. I'm not 100% sure. I'm still learning a lot about that, but that method can help you track your cycles in order to kind of have a base level to figure out what you need to improve in your health. And then spiritual or herbal womb healing. I know that can be triggering for gender dysphoria, but I know that there are folks who do ungendered womb healing or womb healing for gender expansive folks. So they do exist. But if that's something that you're into, a spiritual womb healing could feel really good for folks who have experienced trauma around their wombs. And an herbal womb healing could help with regulating cycles. It could, something like a yoni steam could really help with regulating your cycles, with assisting with yeast infections or bacterial vaginosis and things like that. And so some of those things can be something that you can address while you're preparing for the fertility preservation. And then I learned today that beets improve blood flow to the uterus to help with embryo implantation. So I just wanted to throw that in there, that beets apparently are an amazing superfood. Everyone should eat them all the time. If you have sperm, some health things that you can do. You can go to your healthcare provider and they can check your sperm count and motility. And motility means like movement, basically. And then once you get that information, you can then move forward with a plan to increase your sperm count or increase the motility if necessary, and to address any issues. Also, spiritual or herbal wound healing. Like I said, there are folks who do gender expansive wound healing, and the people that I know who do that work, they express and they emphasize that it's not just for folks with wombs, it's not just for folks with uteruses. So again, if you have any kind of trauma or anything you want to address around your womb or your reproductive system, then I encourage you to get some spiritual or herbal wound healing if that's what you're into. Eat a diet rich in zinc, antioxidants, vitamin E, protein, and again, omega-3 fatty acids. Those are all going to be really good for getting a sperm count up. And then the actual fertility preservation methods. So I told y'all it's expensive. Sperm freezing is anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to deposit. And then to store, the entire price is $1,200 for all of those things. And I know that there are some different companies online that you can like order the kit and you can do it at home and then you ship it, the sperm to them, and then they store it. So it doesn't really involve a whole lot of like procedures or going to different healthcare providers. You can usually do it at home or do it fairly quickly if you do have to go to a provider. And then for egg freezing, it's a lot more expensive because it is more of a procedure. So it's anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000, including the procedure and medications. With egg freezing, someone has to, you take the medication to increase the egg output, and then the procedure is to harvest those eggs and to freeze them at wherever the facility is. So like I said, they're both very expensive, but those are the processes of fertility preservation. So the question is, how do we do the thing? So it's a pretty simple formula. So you need an egg and a sperm, and then you need a uterus. It's like the oven with the bun in it. So you implant the egg and the sperm in the uterus, and it develops for around 40 weeks, give or take. And then you have a cute little baby that's sleeping and has little bracelets on. So if you are ready to have a baby, or you're thinking about having a baby and you're wondering, you know, how do I do the thing? How do I make the baby? So, you know, we have a uterus, we have an egg or multiple eggs. We just need sperm. So step one, acquire the sperm. So you have two options. You have a known donor, and known is in quotation because a known donor could be a sibling of one of the people in the relationship. It could be a friend, it could be a cousin, you know, family member, or it could also be, and some of the things that we've done historically at queer and trans people of color is we have spoken to each other about, you know, if I'm in a lesbian relationship, I might talk to a gay man or a queer man who is also in a relationship, and maybe we both want kids and we decide that, you know, all the kids will be siblings, or maybe one of us wants kids and the other one doesn't, but one of us will carry and the other one will you know, raise the kids with their partner, and then we'll be the auntie or whatever it is. But just figuring out like other queer folks and other trans folks and other folks in the community who can help us with building our families. And then the other option is an unknown donor, which is sperm banks, like California Cryogenics. And usually they will have like profiles for all the different people, and, you know, it'll give information about them. And that's really all that you'll have from them. It might have some information about like their generational or their ancestry or like their family history with certain diseases or something like that, but you don't know too much about that person. An unknown donor is a lot cleaner as far as the legalities go, and you know, whether or not they'll be in the child's life. A known donor, it can go a little messy, a little iffy, and I'm always encouraging queer and trans folks to solidify our family structures with paperwork. You know, I don't like this country government very much at all, but for a lot of us, especially if we're not married or if we're not married to, you know, our co-parent, whatever the case is, we just have to make sure that whoever is in our family, that the law is on our side. Because God forbid if something were to happen to your child in the future and you were not on the birth certificate, or, you know, you were not seen as their parent for whatever reason, then, you know, that can cause some real harm. So that's something to think about as you're building your families. And either way, you get your sperm. And then step two is, I learned the menstrual cup method a couple of weeks ago from a midwife. So we think of quote unquote turkey baster. That's kind of the joke or like the old school thing. I do not necessarily endorse turkey basters. I am not a medical professional also, by the way. I don't necessarily endorse turkey basters, but that's kind of what we think of. But the midwife said, if you put the sperm in a menstrual cup and then you tilt your pelvis up, it's a lot cleaner than a turkey baster, a lot more simple. So yeah, I'm telling people about the menstrual cup trick because that's pretty smart. Usually if, you know, families will go through a couple of rounds of this. So maybe it doesn't take the first time, you'll try it maybe, you know, while you're ovulating. The ovulation window is usually like 2 to 3 days, 2 to 4 days. Maybe try it multiple times throughout the ovulation window, then they wait till the next month and they try again, and, you know, they keep trying. And if this does not work for whatever reason, then step 3 is the assisted reproductive technology. These are the things that we usually think about. So there's IVF, in vitro fertilization. So a healthcare provider will combine the sperm and the egg externally and then place the embryos in the uterus. So they're already fertilized, the egg is fertilized, it has already, you know, transitioned to being an embryo, and then they get implanted into the uterus. Versus intrauterine insemination, or IUI, which is where, there we go. The provider has it's like a really long needle, and they inject the sperm directly into the uterus, like through the cervix, because your cervix is tight shut. So the needle goes in and it injects the sperm, and then hopefully it takes. The IUI, I don't know the prices of either one of these off the top of my head. I know we'll be talking about finances in a minute, but insurance will sometimes cover one or both of these. Oh, I see the baby. Oh, look at them cheeks. Oh my goodness. Oh, I can't handle it. So the IUI and IVF, either one might be covered by insurance depending on your insurance company, your insurance policy. Some of them will be covered if you have been diagnosed with infertility. And some providers are really cool about, diagnosing you with infertility, knowing that you're queer. But infertility, the definition is that you've been trying to get pregnant for, I believe it's either 6 months or a year, with no success. So you have to try to get pregnant for 6 months to a year before being diagnosed with infertility. But obviously for queer folks, depending on what our family configuration is, that might not really make sense for us. And so, yeah, some doctors or providers will say that you're infertile in order for it to be covered. And then some insurances will cover it without you having to be diagnosed. So you have to look into it. So if you need eggs and or a uterus in order to have your baby. So there are two categories that we kind of think of. There's carriers and then there's donors. And so with carriers, there's two different kinds. A surrogate is their DNA is involved. So the surrogate uses their own egg with the person's sperm to get pregnant. And then there are gestational carriers who you use the sperm from one of the partners and then an egg from someone else, whether it's, again, a sibling of one of the partners or a cousin, friend, etc. So the gestational carrier, the embryos are implanted and their DNA is not involved. They are literally just carrying the baby. And then with donations, there are egg donations. Come on, dude. There we go. There's egg donation, where again, a sibling, a cousin, a friend could donate their egg to put with the other partner's sperm and to implant the embryo into a gestational carrier. Or there's also embryo donations. So this I actually learned about a couple of weeks ago. So basically when families go through IVF, there are multiple embryos that they harvest. So they might harvest like 10, 20, basically as many as they can in order to hopefully get one of them that's viable. That's why it's so common for folks on IVF to have multiples, because they'll implant maybe 8 eggs and hope that, one or two will stick, if you will. And sometimes like 6 will stick, or 5, or, another really big number. So embryo donation is once families have gone through IVF, they've gotten pregnant, maybe they had 2 or 3 kids and they decided, okay, we're done. Then whatever embryos are left, they can donate back to the clinic or the provider basically, and then other families can use those embryos. So that's the quick and dirty. I know that was a lot. I'm gonna breathe a little bit. I see some stuff in the chat, so let me look at this really fast. Okay, what kind of support options to walk through these processes are available? Just trans affirming providers or therapists? So honestly, the thing is a lot of healthcare providers don't know this stuff because the medical system is at least 20 years behind on any given day. And they don't know anything about us, honestly, let alone know enough to be able to guide us through the process. So that's honestly a lot of the reason why it's hard for us to find this information, because a lot of cishet folks don't know. And as millennials and older Gen Zs, we're getting older, and folks are becoming researchers, and folks are becoming doctors, and folks are becoming public health specialists, and they're doing this research, and we're finally getting this information, but that information only came out within the last 5 years. And so it takes healthcare providers a long time to catch up. So there's the support options are fertility doulas. And I serve as a fertility doula specifically for LGBTQ families because we got our own stuff going on outside of just the fertility. You know, we have to deal with some of these questions that I'm about to bring up. So I won't get too much into that. But yeah, there's not a lot of support options. If you can find a trans-affirming provider or therapist, that would be great. Sometimes a fertility clinic will walk you through it, but of course that's with the assumption that like you'll work with that clinic. So it's always like it's not completely unbiased, I guess, if that makes sense. Let's see. Yeah, I hope that answered that question. How much sperm do you need for each attempt? That is a good question. So I don't think it's very much, maybe like a tablespoon. Like it's not, I don't know the exact amount. So let me not pretend like I do know, but I would guess that it's around a tablespoon. Like if you think about one ejaculation, basically like how much sperm is in there, if you probably measured it, it probably wouldn't be more than a tablespoon. So I wouldn't imagine that you would need more than that, but I'm sure someone has calculated the exact amount. Do I know who these providers are? The providers who are queer and trans friendly, or the providers who are not queer and trans friendly, or something else?
The providers who are like willing to say you're quote unquote like have fertility issues. Yeah.
Oh no, I wish I did. And that's one of those things where like community folks who have been through this in your area would be really helpful. I'm assuming most of us are in Atlanta. But yeah, if you know some folks who have, you know, who have kids or who are pregnant, maybe asking them like if what providers they've used and if they've had that particular experience, because I'm sure it's fairly common. It's not like super, super common maybe, but it's fairly common amongst folks who have had kids. Okay, so some questions to consider. These are some like internal questions to consider as we're thinking about the existential question of having kids. So what are the underlying reasons why you want to be a parent? You know, I feel like there's always that stereotype of like, oh, someone just wants to have a baby to like dress them up as a baby doll, or like someone to love them unconditionally. Like, I don't know how true that is, but it's worth questioning your, you know, whatever the real reasons are why you want to be a parent, or why you don't want to be a parent, or why you might want to be a parent. But really thinking about that, and, you know, if you feel good about those reasons, then that's more of a reason to move forward. But if you're like, I don't know, let me think about it some more, then, you know, that'll help you make a more sound decision. What type of person do you want to guide and shape long term? I think a lot of parents get so caught up in the day-to-day of like changing diapers and feedings and, you know, soccer practice and getting them to school on time, and oh, they're sick today and this, that, and the third, and laundry, that we kind of forget about the big picture. But really, like, what type of person do you want to guide and shape? Like, it's not about like what type of person do you want to create. Like physically, sure, I guess we create our children, but like we are not, you know, you can only influence your kids so much, I guess, or you can only like not affect them, but you can only like do so much. You can't make your kid be a carbon copy of you, or you can't make your kid be exactly what you want them to be. They're their own person. And so you're really just there to guide and shape them. And what type of person do you want to guide and shape? You know, someone who's compassionate, someone who's intelligent, someone who questions the status quo, someone who is, you know, ungendered, or whatever it is. Just thinking about like, what type of person do you want that to be? And then what kind of person do you need to become to be able to guide that type of person? And all these questions will be, I have a handout for y'all, because these are all like journal prompts and things that you can think about over time. What is your relationship to your inner child? That shadow work is super, super important, because your inner child will be triggered by kids, and will have you feeling all types of ways. And if the first time that you're thinking about your inner child is when your inner child is triggered, that's not a good look. Finances. Like I said earlier, So insurance is one thing. Like I said about the fertility or infertility thing. Other things that sometimes insurance will cover, like I said, in vitro fertilization, intrauterine insemination. Sometimes insurance covers, different aspects of your transition, whether that's hormones or your medical transition, obviously, but depending on what your insurance is, or if you do have insurance or if you don't have insurance, things to think about. And if you're thinking about changing or switching insurance or getting insurance for the first time, then, knowing what to look for, that you're looking for an insurance provider who you don't have to have been diagnosed with infertility for them to cover fertility treatments, or that I'm trying to think, like employer policies and stuff like that. You could also get parental leave with adoption or with fostering, in addition to just birth. And so thinking about a lot of those different things as far as like getting those things in order before you have a kid. And then of course the cost of trying to conceive, the cost of pregnancy, birth, baby, raising a kid, all those things, they're very expensive. We know that, but just, thinking about, are you in a place, because, nobody's perfect. You don't have to provide 100% stability all the time, every day. Like that's probably not possible, but are you in a place where you feel more stable than not? Are you in a place, or do you feel like you're on the way to that place? Or if not, what do you feel like you might need to do? If you're thinking about, well, maybe I'll have a kid in the next 5 years. Okay, well, what do I need to do within the next 5 years so that I feel prepared in 5 years? So whether that means thinking about what are different ways to bring in income, or, whatever it is, figuring out financing. Also, there are different grants and like financial assistance for building your family. And that'll also be in the handout, the resource list. I got y'all, because this stuff is expensive, but all those things to consider. Who's in your village? Raising children is not a one-person job. I don't think it's a two-person job. I feel like raising children is at least a 5-person job. And I always said, if I end up having a kid, I need at least 6 co-parents, so that there's one for each day. Because I will be a great Tuesday mom, but I cannot be Monday through Sunday mom. I cannot. I know myself. I can't. So I need at least 6 co-parents personally. And, maybe you got a lot more energy than I do and a lot more patience, but I know my limits. So, thinking about who's in your village and like who you can rely on to help you raise your child, frankly. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more. And then of course, physical and mental health. So, a lot of us, we go through our ebbs and flows of our health. And, what are some things that we can think about when it comes to our physical and mental health? How stable are we feeling? Are we in between therapists? Like, okay, if I'm in between therapists, then let me prioritize getting another therapist so that I feel good about moving forward in this way. With physical health, that can be connected to insurance, but just, how is my physical health? Are there things I can prioritize? We talked about diet, we talked about exercise and sleep, all those types of things. Are there things that you maybe have been putting off that you need to address? All those types of things, just thinking about how can you set yourself up for the best possible outcome. All right, so this is our activity, our quick rough draft activity. I know we have like 10 minutes, so we're gonna blast through this. But basically your village creation, ideally, you want to have your village together before anybody is pregnant with anybody's baby, because people need help. We know that we're gonna need help, but it's one thing to say, I'm gonna need help, and it's another thing to help people help you. Like to get yourself in order in a way that you can, if somebody says, hey, how can I help, that you have something that you can point to them and say, hey, I would love your help with this. So ideally you would do this with like 4 to 5 people in your life, at least, probably more. But you write down their name. What roles do you envision this person participating or playing in your child's life? And what roles do they see in participating in this child's life. So that includes co-parent, that includes auntie, uncle, a sibling, a play cousin, grandparent, etc. But be specific, whatever it is. And then think about at least 3 tangible actions or ways this person can fulfill this role. So I would love for you to be an auntie. To me, auntie means that there may be a phone call once a week or a FaceTime once a week, that one weekend a month you can be auntie weekend or whatever. And then the third thing, that auntie comes to eat dinner with us on Tuesdays, every other Tuesday. Like, those are very, those are things that people can do. Like, if people need clarity, people need directions, you can't really be vague with people if you want people to follow through. So you have to be able to have like 3 tangible, clear ways that somebody can pour into you and your child's life. And then on a scale from 1 to 5, how active would you want this person to be? 1 being like minimum contact, and 5 being daily presence, maybe even like living in the home. So, I would love for you to be auntie. I would love for you to be like somewhere between a 2 and a 3, but of course, how are you feeling about that? And obviously, like, asking them, like, what role do you see yourself playing in this child's life? And then of course, why did you choose that number? I don't know why this thing is not interacting with me today, but why did you choose that number? And then making sure that you are having a conversation with people about these things. So have you communicated your thoughts with this person? Because if, for example, you're having your kid and you assume your mama is going to help you, I saw this in my family a lot. You assume your mama is going to help you, and then you dropping off the baby at your mama's house to go to the club. I don't know, we all deserve joy. I'm not saying anything negative about that, but you dropping baby off to mama's house to go to the club, and mama rolling her eyes and sucking her teeth, and like, that's like the seeds of resentment, and that's where family drama comes in, and we don't want any of that. But if you communicate, hey, I really need a break, would you mind, are you able to watch the child once a month when I go out? Is that something that we can arrange? And then it's up to mama to say yes or no. And if the answer is no, then maybe mom can alternate with auntie every other month so that you can get your needs met. But communicate, please. If you have communicated your thoughts with this person, connect and reconfirm their interests, because things can change. People's lives can change. People have, it's a whole pandemic. Things might change. And if you haven't communicated, schedule a time to discuss. Your homework is to complete that activity for at least 3 other people that you want in your village. Communicate what you wrote down with them in order to all be on the same page. And some more reflection and journal questions, because that's what parenting is. So you might as well get used to it. Have you thought about how you would like to build your family? If that's something that you're interested in, what thoughts have you had? And again, this is all on the handout. So I'm just introducing these questions to y'all. What is your relationship to asking for help and receiving help? Because especially if you are going to give birth postpartum, you're gonna need help. You're gonna need your community. You're gonna need people. And a lot of the times we block our own blessings. And we might complain that, nobody's helping us, but we might not even let people help us if they were to offer. So what is your relationship to asking for help and receiving help? How do you process grief? Grief is not just for when things go bad. Grief is for any kind of transition. So even if you transition from 7th to 8th grade, even if it's a happy transition, thank God I'm 1 year closer to being out of this place, there's still going to be a level of grief. Like, oh man, I really liked my 7th grade classes. I liked my 7th grade friends, my 7th grade lunch period, whatever. Like, grief comes with any transition. And so even if all good things happen and you get pregnant super easily, or, the surrogate, everything just falls in your lap and everything's perfect, you're still going to have grief, because your life is going to be changing in fundamental ways. And that's okay. And you're not a bad person for feeling that grief. But how do you process grief? Because there's potentially a lot of grief that can happen in the trying to conceive journey. And being able to process grief in a healthy way is going to be a benefit. And then of course, how do you connect parenting to movement work, to generational work, to ancestral work? Parenting is the generational work. Like without parenting, there are no generations to work for. So this is bigger than, you know, than just, oh, well, I'm gonna have a kid. Like it's a big deal. And then of course, parenting and movement work, we don't necessarily have time to get into this, but there's so many different parallels, and I would love to hear y'all's thoughts. Okay, very quick discussion. You can just drop it in the chat. Did anything in particular come up for y'all in the reflection or journal questions that I brought up? And then, oh, there we go. Some other questions, you can drop your answers in the chat. What are some reasons that you're excited to be a parent? What are some concerns you have about being a parent? And what is something that you want to teach your future child or children? Kiara said, I never thought about grief being normal for all transition. Yes. Yes, that's something that we got to talk about a lot more. Because yeah, it's normal and there's nothing wrong with feeling the normal range of emotions. So yeah, how do we grieve and how do we acknowledge that things have happened, that the past is over and that we're moving forward? And I'm in my Octavia Butler bag right now. I just reread both of the parable books, and you know, she says that God is change. Change is the only thing that's constant in the world, and there never will be a time that we go back to the past, to any point in the past. So yeah, we got to normalize grief because things are always changing. Asha said, the village is so important, especially postpartum. Who's going to be there for you, the parent, as well as your children? Yes. And then also there's this weird thing that happens in our society where like, as soon as a baby is born, like nobody pays attention to the parents, which is one, that's rude AF. Two, like the parent needs people more than ever. And so if you know someone who's postpartum or who is pregnant or who has kids, like reach out to them and see how they're doing, because they might not be okay. There's a solid chance they are not okay, because parenting is hard and really isolating in this country. And you know, part of being in a community and having a village is pouring back into the village. So if you have friends who have kids, reach out, make sure they are all right. Let's see, is it Keisha? In reflection, thought of my recent time as a foster parent that abruptly ended, how I had to learn my relationship with asking for and accepting help and not feeling guilty about my grief. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. That sounds, yeah. And I know with fostering, that's fairly common, that it can be kind of abrupt and, you know, you don't always know when it's going to end. So I can imagine that the grief being sudden is just another layer of it. I'm sending you love with that. Iola said, I'm concerned about being able to provide my child a stable life while embracing that change being constant. Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like that's a big part of the work of like, how do we manage the changes and the constant instability, but while trying to be stable for the people around us. Asha said, I want to encourage free children, creating a space for them to explore freely and become free adults. Absolutely. Absolutely. And what does it look like for Black children and brown children to be free? Like, that's the generational work. Because we haven't, I mean, depending on your background, of course, but in this country, we haven't seen that very often until recently. Thank you for sharing. I'm excited to complete this village exercise when fostering, adopting, and planning for the near future. Yes, especially when fostering and adopting, because yeah, the transitions can be rough, and you gotta have other people in your corner, people who you trust, obviously, who are in your corner. And if you go through the exercise and you're like, ooh, I only got 2 people, I only got 3 people, then you know that that's something you need to prioritize, is, you know, building those relationships with other parents, with, you know, other people who are willing and able to pour into your family. Asha, my concerns as a parent is I may not have enough structure, quote unquote, in their life. Things will be too free flowing, and maybe they needed something more rigid. I feel like structure is white supremacy, honestly. Like 90% of it, I just feel like there's certain amounts of structure that are helpful, but like everything having to be so like, you know, in a box. Like I was having a conversation with somebody and they were talking about how like there's this judgment of like, if you, and I've done this, I've judged people. Like if I'm at the store at Walmart or something at 2 a.m. and I see the 2-year-old baby just bright and wide awake, I'm like, that baby need to be in the bed. But like my inner grandma come out. But also I know that like, you know, however much sleep a 2-year-old needs, like it doesn't all have to happen at night. Like, and it probably won't all have to happen at night. So like, who am I to say like, oh, this child needs to be asleep? Like for all I know, that child just woke up and they, you know, bright eyed and bushy tail because they slept good in the car. Like, you know, I feel like, yeah, kids need X amount of sleep, but it's white supremacy to say like they need to have that sleep at a particular time. And I feel like that's where structure is. Like, I feel like it's worth examining, like what is structure that is actually good for them and what is structure that's societal bullshit, frankly. Because there's a lot of that, especially around raising kids, around gender. There's a lot of gross gender stuff that comes up with having kids. And like, yeah, babies are gendered before they're even born. It's really gross. And a lot of other structures and a lot of other norms are equally harmful that we just don't even acknowledge, or we don't question them because they're so normal. So yeah, I think there's some resources about all of that, and I'll share those with you because I have a lot of thoughts about all of that. I actually thought I would be a free-flowing parent, ended up more rigid in practice. I just don't think you know until you're in that space, and each child is so different. That's very, very true. And each child is different. Each of them needs different things. And yeah, like some environments or some situations call for free-flowing and some call for a little bit more structure. And so, for example, if your kid has ADHD, they're gonna need that structure a lot more than if your kid doesn't have ADHD. So yeah, you never know until you're in the situation. Yes, I love this conversation. I'm gonna let y'all keep being great. But yes, I'm wrapping it up. Questions, any other comments, anything like that, feel free to do that. I had a little wrap up, but we don't really have time for all that. If you wanna drop it in the chat, what was your biggest takeaway? How do you feel in one word? And then the learning outcomes. We don't really have time for this, but I hope that y'all had the chance to work on thinking about assembling a rough draft of your future children's village, connect to the act of parenting to movement, healing, and generation work, and question your individual beliefs about parenting and parents' roles. I know that was a lot of information that I threw at y'all, so thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like I said, I'm a fertility doula. If you are thinking about having kids and you want somebody to talk through this stuff with, hit me up. Let me know what you think. Agbo, I might email you with a link to like my testimonial form if folks would be willing to fill that out and give me some feedback. That'd be amazing. And let me know where else y'all need support around this topic around fertility and maybe possibly potentially having kids one day. And connect with me on Instagram at Kaluntu_RJC. I know that was a lot. I'll stop there.
Yay, thank you. That was great. We appreciate you so much. It was a great presentation. Thanks y'all for participating because that made it even better.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all I have for tonight. Kai, if you ever need to reach me, I'm the new community organizer with Spark. My email is in the chat, but it is asha@sparkrj.org.
I'll put mine in the chat also. kai@kalutu.center.
Perfect.
If you're a birth worker or if you're interested in being a birth worker, I have some, I have a digital product site for birth workers to strengthen their businesses. So just a little plug real quick. I'll drop that in the chat.
Thank you. And then I also want to remind folks one more time that we have our Crisis Pregnancy Center review-a-thon on Thursday from 6 to 8. So y'all get the opportunity to learn more about crisis pregnancy centers, as well as leave some reviews to let the people know that these are very deceptive places, especially here in Georgia, and folks need to be able to access the services that they really need. So thank you again, everyone, and toodaloo.